Boom. All right. Add a few.
Hi everyone.
Good morning and welcome. Let's see. All right. So I put in the chat for everybody the attendee list. If you could sign up, that would be great. And I apologize. I've been on the road for almost 3.5 weeks. So we haven't had a great cadence of calls, but we're happy to be semi back on track. And then again, this is 1 hour earlier than usual. So we could accommodate Christian and Vadim's some internal calls at Red Hat that they had to attend to. So thank you for adjusting your schedules and joining us today. So just see where we're at here in terms of attendees. Yes, we've got a good crowd here. So while you were joining us, I just wanted to add my usual talk about upcoming events, and we have two, and I have them in a different order here than they actually appear. March 30th at KubeCon, and if you're coming to KubeCon EU in Amsterdam, I will be hosting an OpenShift Commons gathering. And that's will hopefully Christian will be giving his OKD Fedora CoreOS update talk there as well. And there will be space at KubeCon EU, like we did in North America, to hold an OKD meeting during the week of KubeCon. So I will endeavor to figure out where that space is. It's probably going to be another boardroom style room with 12 to 15 people. And it's probably be at the hotel adjacent to the KubeCon. So that's going to happen in the beginning of March, first week of April. And if there are other ancillary events around KubeCon EU that you're aware of, like CentOS Dojo or a Fedora meetup or anything like that, that any of you think we should send an emissary to promote OKD or Fedora CoreOS collaboration, please let me know, and we will try and find someone who can make it to that. That would be great. And the same thing is true for Red Hat Summit. There will be a gathering, I think it is April 26th, gathering.
Yeah, April 26th.
And at that one, Gelson was saying there is definitely a CentOS dojo happening around that. So we'll try and start looking at those two events and see where else we can help promote. And we have a pretty good slide deck now that Christian and I and Vadim have tweaked at DevConf and other events that any of you are welcome to use, and we'll just keep updating that. If you're going off to, say, a meetup or something like that, maybe what we need to do, Christian, is upload that slide deck to GitHub so other people can use it, and we'll start tracking and doing outreach that way. That's where I'm at in terms of upcoming events. I still haven't even started the blog post, and now I'm going to look in the chat and see what's everybody's chatting about. April 24th, okay. So it's at Facebook. So, yes, perfect. Thank you. We'll try and get on that agenda on the 24th. So if you have other ones, please add them in here. I'm going to, at both KubeCon and Red Hat Summit, we'll try and have a face-to-face, and we'll definitely, if we do, we'll again stream it virtually. I know that's not optimal, but we will record it as well. So that's what I have. to add to this conversation this morning. What I really wanted to get to was, because I've been a little out of the loop, is to get Christian and Vadim to give us an update on OKD-4 and where we're at right now. So if you can take it away, Christian, that would be awesome.
Oh yeah, sure. So there hasn't been too much that is actually usable right now, but we've identified, I think, most of the blockers that we still have for GCP, Azure, and vSphere, and we've been working on it. And behind the scenes, there has been some movement. For example, on the Go module migration for installer, that is scheduled to merge tomorrow. So that'll be a big step for us, as we can really cut down the delta between the FCOS and master branch there going forward. And then there is already GCP fixes in the works, in review. They've been PR'd, so that's really just a matter of having that PR right now, because we're branching 4.5 tomorrow. Everybody's kind of busy with that, but I think after tomorrow it'll be a little bit more relaxed, and we'll hopefully get to that very soon. For Azure, we have identified a sort of a problem a little bit more deep down in the stack in Draycut that sort of gets us a DNS issue we have due to that. So yeah, I think there is people on it, but that's kind of a little bit more out of scope for us, and we hope that gets fixed very soon. And for vSphere, I'm actually not that up to date. Maybe Vadim can add a comment to the vSphere state, because that, I think, in master isn't really working right now either. So we're kind of dependent on getting that working in master first.
vSphere UPI should work. It's just the cryo bug, which is about to land. A fix for that should land in OKD-4.4 very soon, like today or tomorrow, is hampering all the bootstrap nodes. So it's really hard to track if it's specific to vSphere. But it should be fine. I think it doesn't pass all the tests because of some internal changes in machine API, but again, it's also affecting OCP 4.4, so we're waiting for them to fix it. We also have a progress on OVIRT and OpenStack, but the workers don't join the cluster because somebody is using Python scripts there. So once it's fixed, we would have...
Using Python?
Yeah, I know.
Why is that the reason?
Yeah,
Why is that?
But we don't
reason
ship
because we don't have
Python in.
Yeah.
Vadim, go ahead.
Yeah, we don't ship Python in Fedora CoreOS, and people are sneaking Python in RHEL CoreOS, so that's a bug we're gonna fix. And once all of those issues are ready, we're ready to declare that it's a beta, I think, with a bunch of other bug fixes.
I mean, life's going to be very hard if we don't have Python to interact with OpenStack and OVIRT, because I think that's the only maintained SDKs that they have.
No, this is fine. I mean, it's about Python on the host. As long as it's in container, we don't care. But they are using Python scripts on the host, and it's a big no-no.
And that's definitely an architectural decision we won't reverse. So Python is never ever again going to ship in Fedora CoreOS, just to keep that base OS small.
The silver lining is that we have a preview to release, which is based on Fedora on 4.4, and it's available on Quay, and everybody's recommended to use it instead of the preview one, which is 4.3 based and probably won't work now due to several bugs. Yeah, I think that's all the engineering news we have right now.
Okay.
I think that sums it up pretty well.
All right. So the other question I had, let me do this, was the docs. And I know we talked about it, Vadim and Christian and I talked about it in Brno 3 weeks ago. Did we get any further input from the docs department about getting OKD preview docs?
We did. I sent a PR just today. I think generally they agree. It's just a matter of fixing a few things, how to notify users that it's a preview release, and all the docs are now for 3 based, and we're discussing how to properly indicate that. So I'm hoping by the end of the week we'll have the official preview docs.
Okay.
On,
Can you
on all
can you put the PR URL into the chat so I can add that in and track that myself? Sure. That's great. That is actually the best news so far today. So we are totally acknowledging that lack of documentation is an issue, and hopefully this by the end of the week is great news to have something there. And then I have something that I can link to and start socializing and really asking people to try this out. Go.
We've also identified a person who is going to be in charge of the OKD docs going forward, so which is great.
Should we invite this? Michael Burke, was that the name?
Yes.
Burke. There we go, Michael.
I will ping Michael. He doesn't have to be present here. I would actually. I would prefer to control the dog situation ourselves, because
that's okay.
It might be an OCP bug, it might be an OKD specific bug. So that's the approach we do right now with any OKD bugs. In fact, like we want them gated for now, because those might be duplicates, those might be genuine installer bugs, and let's take it slow for now.
I would like to invite him just to join the Google group so he can see the tone of what's missing if people have questions and that. So he doesn't need to come to the meetings, but if he could just join that, so if in case people are posting things, we could keep him in the loop that way. But yeah, he doesn't need to come to the meetings. Cool. Well, this is pretty rockin' awesome news, everybody. It's not as fast as Diane would like. We would like to be GA now, but we're not. And my goal is that we have a solid GA out by KubeCon EU, which is March 30th. And is there any blocker, is any Christian or Vadim to having that done? Are any of these deep issues so deep?
So, yeah, I think the biggest issue would... Well, yeah, Vadim, go ahead.
I am probably way too strict on what GA means. When in my mind, I'm picturing GA as all the code is united in all repos and all master branches, which means master installer has to support both Argos and Fedora CoreOS. And the same for the machine config daemon. I'm not sure if it's gonna happen by March 30th. So if we want to change that definition, let's do that like quickly.
Yeah, I agree with Vadim. I think it's more realistic to aim at the beta now for KubeCon and hopefully get to GA by Red Hat Summit at the end of April. Because for me, there's two big things. For the beta, which would be having all platforms that are working in OCP right now enabled in OKD as well. And for that, we need, the biggest thing for that is the Python code issue, because we need some scripts translated and moved elsewhere if we even want to aim at having all the operators like KubeVirt enabled. We'd need to find an alternative for SE manage for KubeVirt. There is a PR open for that as well, but I think the Python issue is kind of the biggest thing for beta right now. And then after beta, we really want to remerge the FCOS and master branches. And I don't think that can happen before end of March. I do think we can do it in April, but end of March will be a tough schedule.
Why? Why is it tough to get the FCOS branch merged back into master by that point?
Because Arcos also, because installer has to support Arcos, which means Arcos has to be moved to Ignition 3, and we cannot just come up to them and tell them, hey folks, you should upgrade.
I mean, you can. You can tell them that.
You can tell
I don't
them,
know
it's just not gonna happen.
Well, I don't think we can tell them that. That's more of an architectural decision. So we really rely on what the architects say here. So that's not really up to us, and that will need we'll need to talk closely to the MCO and installer teams to get that done, that remerge. And I think before that, we should really focus on getting all the other issues solved that we do have right now, because it doesn't really make sense to force something into master branches that doesn't really work yet. So I really want to get all the issues fixed, get a clean beta that works everywhere out, and then get to remerging those branches.
Okay.
Ignition v3 issue is definitely the biggest part of getting those branches merged. I'm open to suggestions if anybody sees a better way forward, but yeah.
I mean, the thing that bothers me is, like, I don't get why Arcos can't have Ignition v3 now. Like, I honestly do not understand what the hell holds that up, because that piece is probably the only piece you guys have actually gotten working reasonably well across almost every layer. Aside from UPI glitches, which is not specific to Ignition.
Well, there is a few parts to that. So, for example, we really need to vet the Ignition Terraform provider for v3. That is sort of a fork right now, and we need to make absolutely sure that works, because once that lands in the product, we as Red Hat will have to support it. So the current situation is that it is our goal to merge Spec 3 support in the 4.5 timeframe, which starts tomorrow. That is currently our goal, but it's not set in stone. Like, if we hit any huge blockers, anything that makes the architects rethink that, that is still an option right now. So, and I know that is frustrating, and I would have liked to start everything off with v3 from version 4, the very beginning. Obviously, that didn't happen, and now we sort of have to deal with that fallout, and that may just take a while. I'm still optimistic we can get it done in the 4.5 timeframe, and I think it's realistic to get that done in April, maybe even end of March. But there's still kind of a lot of issues that have been popping up, and translating all that stuff from Python to either Go or something else is definitely also some work. We could also say we're dropping support for some platforms, but I don't think that's really desirable.
If you kill OpenStack, a lot of people will be angry with you. Exactly. But what the other thing I wanted to ask, and maybe this is a really stupid question, but how come we couldn't have their Ignition support? Why can't we have either both Ignitions and it load the right one based on the YAML, that the Ignition file that goes in, because they're versioned, or something along the lines where the Spec v3 is supported in their Ignition along with Spec v2, and then depending on what either it's MCO or the Terraform provider, it does quote unquote the right thing. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's a
that is the plan, actually. but we still have the two teams, installer and MCO, that kind of need to manage and maintain all of that code, and they have a lot on their plates as well. So it really just depends on the capacity and work hours we do have. So I'm optimistic we can get it done, but I just I can't promise anything right now. So I'll rather be a bit conservative with the prognostics here.
Okay.
All right, so there's a lot of other people on the call as well. I'm going to unmute everybody so you're all self-muting yourselves. Has anyone else got any feedback from testing or debugging the current preview that you want to share, or any questions?
Did you get the recording of the meeting that we had last time without all of y'all?
No, I did not. I have not watched it. I really just landed back on the planet yesterday. So
yeah, that one has a lot of interesting feedback. You might want to go through that at some point.
Okay.
I mean, I'm here. I can
Yes,
read some
it
of
was.
this.
Yeah.
I think Christian still has the recording for that, right?
I haven't uploaded it
So-
or anything. Okay, go ahead. Give me a synopsis.
Yeah, well, the feedback was very harsh. I really hope we did fix a lot of, a lot of pain points from that part, introduce some more during that time, and I would definitely prefer more issues in OKD repo, because those are actionable, and the video recording is not really easy to follow and to track. We didn't have any significant breakthrough since that because of the issues we discovered when we enabled some more platforms. Hopefully GCP would be very easy to add. Azure, Ovirt, and OpenStack as platforms would be a bit tougher. But hopefully we will have them landed in some shape or form by the next meeting, and that would be easier to track, and we would start paying attention to smaller paper cuts. The largest issue I would mention is that upgrades are probably very, very broken due to the Ignition 3 patch right now. We would have to push it back so that we would not hold the patch release. Again, we'll see. We still have time, but it's rather hard to plan the issues ahead. Again, if there is more feedback during that time, please do hit it.
I think
I want to shout out to everybody who's reported an issue. Sorry, Neil. And keep on doing that. It's really great. That's the way we've been sort of getting our actionable items right now, and that's really helpful because we're only discovering now all the issues that there really are with the differences between RCOS and FCOS. So that's been really valuable for us again. And even though it's more issues than we thought, it's definitely nothing that's unsolvable, and I think we're on a good way, even though it takes a little bit longer than anticipated again. But yeah, Neil, go ahead.
So I think that now that we are apparently going to maybe just finally start actually having OKD4 documentation, and that the repo actually exists and can take pull requests. One of the things that can help is that now we can actually start doing things about making the documentation more fleshed out about OpenShift 4, because at least a lot of the rather somewhat harsh niggles with getting OKD4 going is that there's a lot of built-in assumptions of things that are just magically happening for you that aren't necessarily magically happening for you, and those things are not necessarily indicated anywhere. as Sri found out when he was doing this last time. And there were more of those kinds of things that came up as we were talking last week, the last week or the week before, the last recording that you guys weren't here for. So I think it's just, a lot of it is that it's really, really easy to get discouraged because of how inscrutable it is to discover what has actually gone wrong. But like as the documentation improves, people are less likely to hit those stages where it's like, well, I give up because I don't know what I'm doing anymore. When those start going away, I think the experience will improve considerably. But this is also part of the reason why I'm really nervous about how long it's taken to merge these things, the FCOS branches, back into master, because I've seen a number of fixes that would have helped for us that landed in master but are not in FCOS because it takes manual rebasing to get them in. So that's part of the reason why I'm kind of digging a little into why this isn't happening yet, because I see the fixes going, but they're not going to affect us until FCOS branches are rebased or it's finally merged into master and continuously releasing.
To that, with the Go module migration PR landing in installer tomorrow, the delta will be considerably smaller, and I'll aim to do the manual rebases much more often, let's say once a week after that, because it'll be much easier to track. That's definitely an issue, and I'm pushing towards getting those branches remerged as soon as possible. Once again, it's just we can't ask too much of the teams that actually maintain those repositories right now, because they have lots of it on their plate. But I'm definitely pushing towards getting that merged and also keeping the delta very, very small between those two branches. And that includes rebasing them even more often than we've done so far, because I think, we haven't done a great job with keeping the FCOS branches up to date. It's been a bit difficult with all the changes landing first in master and then not really getting into FCOS for a while. And that's definitely an area I see we should improve even before we go GA and remerge those. Just having them rebased more often is one of the things I want to do.
So,
I think that's just really the core of the issue at this point. And like once that issue is resolved, I think a lot of the problems that people are having and a lot of the experience niggles will become a lot easier to deal with and a lot quicker to solve. And we'll have a much smoother experience going forward.
So, which brings me, is there anything, Christian and Vadim, I know you guys have a lot on your shoulders, and every time I say this, you say no. The answer is always no. Is there anything we can offload on the community here? This rebasing of Fedora CoreOS, creating images, or is that still all stuff that is not, that has to be done by a Red Hatter?
So another issue that has been kind of an annoyance, I think, for our users and testers is the lack of public images in GCP and Azure. I don't know if there's anybody who could kind of host one of those, because right now on GCP we're waiting for the Google folks to kind of decide whether they want to host Fedora CoreOS for free or not. And I think Red Hat would pay for it, but we're kind of waiting for that, for Google to say that. So if anybody has capacity to host those images to sort of mirror an FCOS image, we could then link in the installer on one of these clouds. That would definitely help. Any documentation PRs are definitely helpful. I think with the rebasing, that's kind of would be possible, but I think because we'll have to sync with Clayton to force push those rebases, that'll probably be my part to do. But anything really, documentation, and if there's anybody who knows who has capacity to host images on any of those public clouds, that'd definitely be helpful as a sort of stopgap solution right now until we figure it out properly. That's another thing I want to really have for GA, have those FCOS images in all the clouds. we didn't get it. We haven't gotten it done for the Fedora CoreOS release last month. I think we should have. It should have been done, but it's still not there, and we're still kind of waiting on that. And that would make the installation experience for those clouds of OKD much better as well. Because right now you have to upload them manually, and there's problems with that. I know Joe Meyer has done lots of testing on Azure, and there is also issues with the image that CoreOS assembler right now spits out. But, yeah. Well.
So, folks who are on the call, are any of you big GCP or Azure users? Not, we could actually put a note out onto the mailing list as well, asking that same question.
We had people on the channel asking about Azure and GCP. So maybe if we put back on Slack, we will get people to propose to help.
Yeah, I think that let's, if one of you could do that, that would be great. And let's see if we can make that happen. It's just, I know it's frustrating to me trying to create a community around here for that so much of this current to get the first release has to be done by handheld by Red Hatters. So I'm looking forward to the day when it's a little bit more open and we can force all of you guys into doing some work on it. Vadim, you're saying the workaround is to upload the image in an existing project.
Basically, you can install things on Azure and GCP. It's just the official location of the image is not yet existent. And there is no reason we should hard code somebody's project in our installer and change it back once the Fedora CoreOS has the official uploaded image. We just have to document the workaround correctly. That's the best solution we have. And it's also a pretty long-term one because eventually users would start experimenting with things and would like to override the official image location. As for how the community could help, Neil has brought up a good point. We don't have capacity to track the latest commits and installer, so if you feel like it would be useful to have it now, please do notify us. We have the magic to cherry pick particular pull requests or commits to FCOS branch even before the rebase. But again, we're trying to keep delta as minimum as possible, so cherry picking might cause a lot of damage, and we won't just cherry pick minor fixes. We are still focusing on existing platforms and the platform support for beta. But sure, I mean, if it's important to you, we can do that in general. Other areas to improve, testing, a lot of testing. We have quite a good set of issues we've identified, and we could start helping people with preparing a pull request for fixes, I guess. But again, that's not very trivial, but definitely possible.
And James brought up a good question, and I think sometimes people get have the same question about the Slack channels. The Kubernetes Slack channels, OpenShift Dev and OpenShift users are the public conversations for technical conversations. OpenShift Commons is the wider ecosystem community, and you have to be invited to OpenShift Commons because of a security bug in Slack, just in the same way you have to get into the overall Kubernetes one. Red Hat pure IT security. I set it up originally OpenShift Commons so that Slack channel was wide open, and if your organization, so it's Commons as an organization is a membership-based organization. So you join once for your company, and everybody from that company, whether it's the janitor or the CEO, can join the Slack channel. If you've used Slack before, or if you've administered Slack, you can see how you can set it up so that anyone with the same extension on their email address can join. However, it turns out there's a big security hole in that, and so I have to manually add people. And yeah, we don't have the invite bot working yet. So Commons is still, I'm the gatekeeper for that. If you want into the OpenShift Commons Slack, just email me at dmueller@redhat.com and I will add you. The thing is that the Commons is really about best practices, end user workloads, those kinds of conversations. And the Kubernetes OpenShift dev and OpenShift users is really where you should be asking your technical questions or discussing bugs and patches and PRs and other things. So there's a distinction in that Commons is really more about end user conversations than it is about technical coding issues with OKD or OpenShift itself. Does that help, James? Yes, perfect, great, thanks. It is confusing, but it was the way that we just decided to make that distinction. So that way we didn't have to look in two different places to support technical questions. All right, well, there we go. Is there, and Neil, no, I didn't consider something better like Matrix or more open. And now that I have a couple thousand people in the Slack channel, switching them over isn't really an option at the moment. And yeah, so there's that. So
well, we could. So you could bridge if you wanted to do the transition. I'm not saying you want to do it, but if you wanted to, you could have a matrix thing set up, and then bridge the existing Slack channels in, and then gradually move people over from Slack to Matrix, and then have new people come in through that.
Yeah, I think that's a good life goal. And but the other thing I would say, it's a good life goal. I don't have a life, so we can't have that goal. But what
that's terrible.
Yeah.
So I know Vadim already maintains an internal Matrix server at Red Hat, and he just wrote he'd love to set up one on an OKD cluster, and I'd love to help with that. So yeah, once we get there, I think we can start working on that.
So
that would be fun, and I'd love to see a deployment for that.
Yeah, so that would be a great operator to build too. Another story. The only thing that I have about splitting off the OKD from the OpenShift, so I personally at the moment like having the conversations mixed between OpenShift Dev and Kubernetes, because that means the Red Hat engineers might see the things that are OKD bugs and throw in a few extra cycles to fix them. So if we separated the OKD conversations out from the Kubernetes Slack channel OpenShift Dev, we might lose some traction with the internal engineering teams who may work on this on their weekends and stuff. And that's my only concern. So so I think it's keep the conversations all where the engineers are, and live with that. The other thing is, and this is my personal life goal, is that I really want people to see this as a viable Kubernetes distribution. So keeping the conversations in the Kubernetes Slack is great, and it also raises visibility for Fedora CoreOS in the Kubernetes Slack as well. So yeah, that's my community development hat on, because I think it gives us more visibility there than going off into a separate space. Not that Matrix isn't wonderful, and if you can convince all of Kubernetes to move over to Matrix, I will be a happy woman too, and it will meet another life goal of mine. But
You and your life goals, I like them. They're very good life goals.
yeah. So, all right. So there we are. It's 20 minutes before the end of the hour. Are there any other things, people? There's a bunch of you on the call that you're thinking about that we should be talking about. I can see John Terpstra is lurking there. I haven't seen him on one of these calls before, so welcome. And,
I've lurked before, Diane.
okay. So, but you probably haven't added your name to the attendee list. So let's make sure.
I've done that for the first time today, and you can expect to see a little bit more of me on this call.
Okay, so there we go. Look at you all being so good.
I can't even spell my name correctly.
That's all right. Yes, here we go. We'll fix that. Something like
Take that R out. There we are. We're good.
We're good. All right. So if you haven't signed up, please do add. We try and keep a copy of this in up to date, and I will try and work with Christian and get the last video up on the channel as well. I don't promise.
So I don't have a recording of that. I know that it said recording started, but I don't have the recording locally. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, did you use this login, the 893304, the main one? You didn't create a different one. It's probably in my folder then, so I can do that. All right, James, I'll add you. Do that, and I just got to find it again. There we go. There, somebody's adding you. So yeah, so I would say we'll do this again in, let's see, what's 2 weeks time here? Let's look at the calendar.
Oh, and by the way, I have requested a calendar on FedoCal, on the Fedora calendar platform, and it has just been created for us. So everybody can go and subscribe to that calendar. I'll post the link in a second.
Yay!
And we will put all our meetings in that calendar, and that's a calendar you can just subscribe to on Google or wherever. It's a cal thing file you can add and subscribe to. 1 second.
Perfect. Add that in there, and our next meeting.
No more surprise time.
Who was that? Who's doing that?
That was Christian Glumbeck. He's our co-chair.
Wonderful. Yep, wonderful.
So the next meeting will go back to the 1700, and it will be on February 25th if we keep our 2-week cadences. That gonna fit with you guys, Vadim and Christian, to go back to the 1700 UTC, or should we keep it at 8? Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, usually that would work.
Weren't we normally supposed to have it next week and then 2 weeks after? So what happened to cause it to be this week? Because I didn't know we were having one today until last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week we couldn't do it, which is why we sort of changed the cadence.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on either going back to the old one, having it next week again, and then 2 weeks after, or in 2 weeks from now and then 2 weeks after. I don't really have an opinion on that.
I think for some...
what is the time of the next meeting? When is it? Can someone show that up again, please? Sorry.
It's the 25th here.
So, I mean, the way that things are...
It's in 2 weeks, but 1 hour later than today's meeting.
Right. So, for me at least, like, I don't know whether this is going to start clashing with my calendar again, because I had nicely aligned everything around the fact that I knew what days this event was.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a bummer. So if we can, and I don't, it may not necessarily be possible, but if we can.
You want to meet next week? Is that,
Yes.
well,
Can we just keep the existing cadence we have and consider this a weird one-off?
Well, for me, 9 o'clock Pacific on a Tuesday is a blocker.
well, that's our normal time though. And
Yeah.
I apologize for that. So do we have enough meat to meet again next week? Will enough change happen between now and next week to do that? I mean, I'm perfectly happy to host one next week instead of. So
I mean, we
with
may
any.
not be able to deliver huge progress in that 1 week, but I think it's good to go back to the old cadence anyway.
Okay, so let's say the next one, we'll do it again next week on the 18th. Is that the right day?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
And Christian, you're going to endeavor to get that Fedora calendar up and send out a meeting note. And
Yeah, the calendar exists already. I just linked it, and I'll just have to feed in all the meeting times. So I'll do that tonight, and then you can already subscribe to it, I think.
Okay.
And then they'll just show up in your calendar.
Yeah. And Gleason, you also offered to be our backup to Diane as well. So I'll add you into the Blue Jeans information so that you can boot up the meeting if for some reason Diane's life goals don't align with the life goals of OKD to start the meeting. And the meeting always automatically hits the record button. Unless somebody stops it, it's always going to record. That's how we do. We roll here because Diane sometimes forgets it. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and I haven't done any work on it yet, Neil, is this Fedora magazine post. So maybe, and I'm home for 2 months almost solid, except for ScaleX and Linux and Pasadena maybe. That we should start drafting up this article, and that I would like to aim to have a GA, when we GA, have an article in the Fedora magazine, as well as some good PR pieces ready for analysts at Summit. So
sounds good. We should do that.
Yes, we should.
Yes, I'll try to. I will endeavor to help.
And I think I've shared that with you, and it's in here if people have other. I mean, there's really nothing in here. All right, I'm pretty sure that's it. So.
I would really prefer this article to be written by somebody from community, because that would be a bit, first of all, fair. Second of all, I think it's more important to find out which features and goals are more suitable for community than suitable for us. So that would be, I think, a better situation than me and Christian writing down the technical details there.
I'd agree with that. So we'll start, and Neil, I think that's probably, I'm gonna keep tapping your shoulder on this, and that maybe between now and next week we can Slack around and on the OpenShift Commons Slack or wherever we find each other and try and get a few things added into here and
sure.
And start doing this, because the other thing, and I was going to try and rope. I don't think Dusty is on this call, unless he's just lurking quietly, which is never Dusty's mode of operating. So I don't think he's here, but getting Dusty to come in too and help a little bit too. So.
Right, because the FCAUs, yeah, I'm happy to primarily write this or author it or whatever this is, or at least have my name attached to it. But I also don't know a whole lot about what is interesting and or exciting about OKD4 right now, because I don't have a working OKD right now, and I don't know what to look for to play with yet.
Yep. So if
okay, that's our job then.
Yeah, that part is okay. And Christian has to drop in 2 minutes, so I'm gonna let Christian drop.
That was 2 minutes ago. I have to drop now. See you next week, everybody. Bye.
All right. So everybody else, if there's anyone else on this call that feels like they're, in a position to spend some time writing some content up, I would happily. Hey, Brian Hepworth, that's waving at you. or anyone external to Red Hat, I'd love your feedback on it. It would be wonderful to have like someone who's done it on GCP, have a quote from them, someone who's done it on OpenStack, someone who's done it on Azure, just a little quotes about, that they've actually done it. Would be wonderful. So let's keep moving that forward. And for the rest of you, have a great week. And we will talk to you all next Tuesday again, and bring your friends and family.
Thanks, Diane.
Okay, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.